like that effect.
Like that effect?
I can at least now see the beige color that you have for your hat and stuff. Before it was all just white.
Nice.
And I couldn't see anything. So we're getting a little closer.
And my guess is good? I'm probably going to do a wide thing to see the whole feet. And everything.
Yeah, I was just getting closer so I could actually get a look at it.
Sweet.
Yeah, this isn't too bad. I'm going to try to turn it on 4.
Okay, should my legs be down or should I cross my legs? Because I'm much more comfortable with my legs crossed.
Yeah, go with your legs crossed. How do you feel comfortable?
I want to look comfortable.
Yeah.
It's all about perception, right?
Thank you.
I don't know, I think that's going to be
Perfect.
not too bad. What I'll do is I'll stop recording and then I'll have you look at it.
All right, it's the Clean Universe here. I've got my guest here that I met, actually, I think I've seen you around town, but we really started interacting on Facebook. A fellow producer here that does a show for decades called Homemade Jams. Something about his, I even forgot what it was, but it was some kind of political debate, and I was criticizing him, and you kind of stepped into his defense. And then we started like interact, but you were so nice, it was like, I wanted to kind of get, with Facebook, I kind of like to get the debates going and stuff. And you were so nice that it was like, wow, and then we started talking about other issues and life, and then realized that you're a musician, and good to see you. So now we meet in person. We just met like a few moments ago.
Great to meet you. Yes, it's really funny. The conversation that we had on Facebook, actually, I was a single dad, raised a few kids, somewhere between 1 and 7. And I was with my baby girl. We were talking yesterday, and we brought up that post. And I got your message like almost 2 minutes after we finished that conversation. So it was like really funny that I got that. I was like, you'll never guess who just texted me. She was like, who? I said, the guy we were just talking about, you know. I had a tooth that was getting an abscess, and I had just gotten back from the dentist. And I was so much pain, and I was thinking, oh, do I want to do this tomorrow, you know? And then I thought, after all the conversation and going back and forth, to send him something saying, I think I have an abscess tooth and I can't make it, which sounds so much like an excuse. I'm just not going to do that. I'm going to power through it. But actually, I feel pretty good, and I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad to finally meet you in person.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you for going through the
It was meant to be. It was meant to be. You were already in the air, so it was a great thing. It was a great thing.
Yeah, definitely something supernatural, because it just came to be, well, this is going to be the last day that Lauren, the normal facilitator, is good, but she's more hard ass about some stuff. So this is the last day that she comes back tomorrow, and then it's going to be hectic. Go, well, I should invite my Facebook friend, and because we talked a little bit like a couple months ago, whenever that debate was about you coming on, and it's like this will be the last day before she went to Italy.
That was the end of the conversation. And for those that weren't privy to the conversation, it was a really hot conversation for a lot longer than hot conversations typically go. It was like finally I said, I think I stepped into something maybe I shouldn't have stepped into. Maybe this was just the wrong conversation. But in the end, as I always like to see, is that if you can start here and end up here and go, well, you know, this is all right, you know, and maybe it isn't as bad as we thought it was over here, then that is a positive conversation, and that is how all things must be approached. If we can't talk, you know, and if we can't hear the difficult things, we're not going to hear the good things either. You know, so we have to have a chance to talk about it. We have to listen, and we have to be open. You know, we don't have to agree. That's not a requirement. All we have to do is have the conversation, and then maybe we can get to a place where we can kind of meet in the middle and say, you know, even though we don't agree, it's not a personal thing.
You actually turned it all around, because I was I like to get debates going. I was kind of clearly.
Oh man, you had help though. You know, next thing I know, I had children and nephews and cousins. I'm like, oh, I'm by myself in here, you know. But everybody was great in the end, and I kind of understood, you know. I think it was protecting you and what you were saying, and I had stepped into something that was a lot more than what I was replying to, and that was one case where I said I think I got into a conversation where I needed more information, and what I was saying didn't mean to diminish the importance of what was being said, but I was like, let's look at another picture. And, you know, not to get into specifics, but from what I had seen about the, you know, as a musician, I've only seen him in the corner with the camera. That was it. I'm glad to see him in the corner with the camera from the guy up there with the bass. That's a win-win situation for me. You know, but then there's a life outside of that I just wasn't privy to. You know, but in the process, I made some friends, and
Right.
that's how things work, and that's a beautiful thing.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
And yeah, if you want to, whatever you feel like talking about, but I've really appreciated your life history and everything that went on that we were talking. At first it started out like tit for tat of, okay, we've been through this life struggle and that life struggle, and but then it was like, wow, this gentleman's been through so much in life. And
I appreciate that. Those that know me know that I haven't had a particularly easy way in terms of physical challenges and things of that nature. However, I have felt and still feel as though I've had one of the most blessed lives, and I'm usually one of the happiest people I know in spite of the hardships and challenges that have managed to invade, you know, my life. And in the end, I think that every situation that I ran to that caused me some time to think made me have to sit down and deal with it. Be it of my own ignorance or a situation where, you know, it could have been avoided but wasn't, or it was just life being life. It ended up bringing me to where I am today. And not that life has become any easier, but the concentration on the things that aren't so important really has made an impact on the way that I feel about things. If a tsunami were to come down the street right now, I would not be shocked, because I know there are terrible things that happen every day, and they happen to everybody. And in terms of bad things, you don't compare shark bites like in Jaws. You know, well, they got me in my cat. Well, the shark bit me in my arm. You know, if it's bad to you. It doesn't, the degrees of bad, I was bad in the 3rd degree, and this was bad in that's not really a conversation that's really productive. You know, if it's bad, how do we make it better?
yeah,
Now we're going somewhere. Now, you know, if we have a problem and we can't discuss it, and we can't mention it, and we have to ignore it to pretend that it's not there, then where does that problem go? Well, it stays exactly where it is, and that's a problem.
yeah.
You know, so I don't mind the problem. I just don't want a problem that we refuse to work on, and I refuse to let a problem invade my ability to be happy. That's a personal choice. What you didn't do with your problem. If you want to linger there and wallow in problems, go right ahead, but I got an idea for you. You know, you could just as well wallow in the bathtub. You know what I mean? and see how bad you feel when you dry yourself off. You know, I'm just saying, you know, there are ways to do that. And those are the things that I've tried to pass on to the people that I come in contact with. And I've really tried to instill that in my progeny, you know, let them know that I don't need to give you a formula for success. What I'd like you to do is work on a formula to be happy. If you can find a way to be happy, then I would have succeeded as a parent. And today, I look at what our family has gone through almost consistently since their arrival in this space. They're happy. They're happy kids. They're high achieving. They're focused. They're hardworking. And they're good people. And they seem to be happier than most. I'm looking now for a whole new set of things to accomplish because we get together, and I've had people that have never been to my house and walk in and they say there's so much love in the house. And it wasn't by mistake. There's not been a single day that if I saw my children that I didn't kiss them. That is true today. My youngest is 20. There's not a single day that I've seen my kids that I didn't tell them at least twice that I love them. And that was either when they walked in, and I definitely said it before they walked out. Because you never know when the last time is going to be. And I never want the last time that they saw me to be guessing whether or not their father loved them.
Right.
At 15, my son was playing street ball, basketball. And we have a kiss that is exclusive to us. It is our kiss. And when we do it, I kiss a cheek, they kiss a cheek, I kiss a cheek, they kiss a cheek. And we do that, it's almost, it goes by so fast you barely notice it, but you know it's not the same. And we were at the basketball court, and I was leaving, and we did our kiss, and we were walking off, and I said, man, you're 15. You're not going to be willing to do that with your dad too much longer. He says, I'll kiss you as long as you're here to be kissed.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And that is true. And we do that today, and it's without a thought. You know, it's a reaction. It's an action that we do, and I hope that they carry it with their kids.
Right. That's the wisdom. That's the first of all the wisdom that you had earlier, and then now this brought a tear to my eye. That's great. That is great.
It's amazing. When we talk about the hardships, but without revealing a whole lot, we've been impacted by mental illness, drug addiction. An incarcerated brother who's spent the last 10 years in various penitentiaries. Rumors of abuse by their father from people that didn't know us. Rumors that circulated around their school, and the school thought that it was better not to include me in that conversation while these things were being spread to the point where there was a listserv letter being sent to my neighbors, unknowns to me, and signed by people that were friends of mine. At the time, I was a director of the City Health Club, which a lot of people know me as, prior to its closing. I found out about the letter from a parent who had told my son, well, when they come to take you from your father, we'll be glad you could stay here. And this is the first I knew that there was anything going on. I said, what does that even mean? And then I heard about the letter, and then I heard about the people that had signed it. And I called a friend of mine who, and this is in the Fall Creek neighborhood, I called a friend who was, you know, a class above me in high school and was a lawyer. And I said, you know, I'm not sure what to do about this. I said, but I'm extending an olive branch to those in the neighborhood that want to talk about this. Their older brother had committed a crime, and the neighborhood was concerned. And so I needed to tell them, you know, I understand that you're concerned about this crime that my son just committed, but I also have 4 younger kids, and I'm concerned about those kids as you are about your children. And in addition, I'm worried about the son that committed the crime because that is my son and I have to help him. I just can't be mad at him and disown him because he's done something. Obviously, he needs help, and I've got to protect these other kids. So instead of coming to figure out how to expel me and blame me, maybe coming to talk to me and ask me how you can be some assistance. Might be a better way, but again, before you show up with pitchforks and torches, I want you to know that the guy that's going to meet you at the door is a lot different than the guy that's sending out this letter. You know, and literally I had to go to the school and have a meeting and say, this is what I'm dealing with, and this is where it started, and this is where it needs to end. And they were literally coming to the children and going, you could tell me what's going on at home, it's really okay, you know, we're here to protect you. And they're like, this is my dad, you guys are kind of crazy, and we're not sure what you're talking about, but we wish you would really stop asking us, we have a very heavy home. You know, this is consistent with almost their whole childhood.
Wow.
We're extremely close. And
You handled that whole thing so well. You turned it, just like you did with our Facebook thing, you turned it all around to the positive. I mean, you made this whole, like, there's 101 ways you could have negatively reacted, and you handled it perfectly, I think.
I handled it the best I knew how at the time. I can't say that I had a life of making the best decisions. As a matter of fact, I can pretty safely say that I had a life where I made a great many bad decisions. And I had many years where I didn't make any decisions at all. I just went with it wherever it went. Sometimes I ended up in a pretty good place. Someplace I ended up, well, this is not where I thought I was going to be. But there's an out of here too. My oldest child is 40, my youngest is 20. My oldest grandson is the same age as my twins. By the time I got to the last set of kids, I was a different dad than I was with the child that was 40. I had learned a lot more. I had been in the Marine Corps. I left the Marine Corps under pretty tragic situation. I was told that I'd never walk, I'd never sit in the bed, I'd be bedridden. And on top of that, I was, you know, wasn't given any kind of outlook for survival, but told that if I were to survive, they'd done all they could, and that the rest was up to me. And if it was up to me, then I would survive. Then I was told that if I survived, I'd probably be incarcerated for 15 years due to the nature of the incident that had me in the hospital. And my thought was immediately, if I survive and I'm incarcerated 15 years, but I live 15 years and 2 days, then I win.
Oh, right, yeah.
So bring it. And I'm trying to figure out how to get the book written, but life hasn't stopped yet. It hasn't become any less intense than that. So my life has been at that level of intensity since 1985. Um,
Wow.
just short of 2 years ago, I had a home invasion where they came in at 2 o'clock in the morning, put a 9mm to my head as I was sitting there taking my medication,
Oh my Lord.
told to shut up, not to move. I couldn't see what was going on. I heard tussling, and then I heard 4 shots ring out. My son, my daughter was home. Their boyfriend and girlfriend were there. I couldn't see anything. And in the end, the kids ran the gunman out.
Yeah.
Before they even had a chance to demand anything. My son saw the gunman standing there at his door before he had a chance to raise it, and he went on the offensive, and he actually got shot point blank in the back with a .45 caliber pistol.
Oh
And
shit.
if anything knows anything about a .45 caliber gun, they're meant to kill you.
Yeah.
It passed through his back, behind the spine. It didn't hit any internal organs.
Oh, thank God.
And he refused to use a stretcher to go down the steps. He says, I'm walking.
Whoa.
And as he walked past me is when I knew that he was hit. At that point, I wasn't aware that he had been shot. And he walked to the ambulance with 2 50-cent piece holes in his back.
Oh my God.
And that is the tenacity in which his life had given him. That is the sum of the hardship that those kids have come through. And it was almost suspect for the police that they weren't running around hysterical. But the fact is that our life had been hysterical for 20 years. And this is just another hysterical moment in which we're just all glad to be safe. 3 days later, he was home and we were talking. And I asked him how he was doing, because that whenever your life is there like that, your life, the definition of life changes. When you come face to face with your mortality. And I can't tell you how many times I've walked that line between being here and not. He says, Dad, my life is different now. He says, but I can't think of anything that I would change. If I change one variable, then I'm not walking and I'm not talking to you, and you're not here, you know. And something else has happened, and right now I'm walking, I'm talking, I'm gonna make a full recovery. My sister's okay, you're fine, and I'll continue on. And he's absolutely correct. So out of that situation, which is one of the worst situations that any man should have to come through,
Yeah.
my son found that this was the best way that it possibly could have happened. And if he can believe that, then how can I believe anything different?
Wow.
You know, so that's the way in which I tend to approach things. I think that it should be very simple. As a Marine, and I think I can't speak for our Marines, we have a different measure of a lot of things. I think patriotism being one. I don't want to go there. I think our abilities of what we can do, what we can't do, I think are changed because we're always pushed beyond what we think we can do. I think that one thing I found is that we are trained to not be emotional in our decisions, but defined in our mission. And I tend to break things down into one, being happy. and the other being people. And it was part of our conversation that day. It was the simplicity of it for me. That as people, we found so many ways to categorize so many things. And I think we got into immigration at one point in the conversation. We got into some of the litigation and things the government were trying to do and what was best. And I try to think in terms of people. And when we begin to look at it as if everybody were a person, not divided by state lines or national lines or international lines. We want the best for people, and some people have it tremendously hard. And having had a chance to travel with the service, you see things that a lot of people don't have the opportunities. And hardships and resilience, you know, to look in a kid's eyes and know that that kid has seen more than you've seen, and that he literally, you don't see life in there, you don't see hope in there. You see a kid who looks through you with the soul of an old man, but the innocence of a child. And then you go home and you complain about how it is at home, and you almost feel, really, this is what you're upset about today. You should really feel like this is a good day for you. And that is how I want to communicate our differences to other people, is that really, if you want a bad day, there is a bad day out here to be had. And people have them, and they have them, and they never go away. So let's try and figure out what bad really is. And let's figure out, you know, not what we are, not where we're from, because we really don't. We're people. Location doesn't really matter. The things that hurt, the things that are kind of personal to us, they're personal to us. But deep down inside, we're people. And the same things that we care about are the same things that they care about. But we have a really bad habit of trying to figure out what the other person is, when the answer to that other person is people. Plain and simple. And when we deal with it from that perspective, the answers aren't really that difficult. You know, and that's, you know, the way that I want to be remembered that way as a person. And if they will put a good person next to it, I'll be pretty happy. If they put that he, you know, was not a good person, I hope somebody calls him a liar.
Yeah.
You know, and the rest of it, you know, so be it. You know, somebody that they'll say, you know, your dad was a hell of a guy. Tell my kids that. I won't be here to see it. I'm not well, but I don't look as bad as I sometimes am. You know, but I'm a person, and as good as I could be as bad as I want to be. I've gone through all the stuff that people would say bad people do, but I've tried to do much more good than I've done bad. And I've tried to relate to many more people on a personal basis than I have on a categorical assumption. Those are the things that I think are important. And I try to live that, and I hope that I can be an example to other people, to deal with people on a people-to-people basis, as opposed to I am a this and you are a that basis. Because all we are people with different ideas. And that was kind of like the whole design. I think that's what we were meant to be. That wasn't supposed to be a negative. That was supposed to be what was special about being an individual.
I'll tell you, you're an inspiration to me. I'm actually just 45 days cleaning silver and
Congratulations.
a bunch of different stuff. And just hearing the wisdom and the way the positive outlook on life through all the different trials and tribulations that is, I totally get the idea that, when I start feeling sorry for myself, the whole idea of I felt sorry for myself because I had no shoes until I met a man that had no feet type of thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That you just got to look at the positive and just.
And definitely congratulations with your recovery. You know how much I'm willing to admit while I'm being filmed, but I can say that I live my life as an extremist. That means everything I did was an extreme. I've just reached in the last few years where I realized that if I wanted to see my kids any longer than the doctors said I was going to see them, I had to cut some things back. And given choices, sometimes you make good ones. I surprised myself. I was able to do something I hadn't been able to do before, and that was sit down and kind of mellow out. I didn't have to be there every night and every day and turn on every time there was a chance to turn on. I've dealt with substances of every kind all my life, and my kids have had that to deal with all of their life. They don't have a memory before mental illness and drug abuse impacted them. At one point on my son's graduation day, and I can say this because it's of no embarrassment, it's public knowledge, but his mother was on the front page for having been busted that day. And we didn't know where she was for 2 weeks prior, and so his response was, I don't have to wonder now if you'll be at my graduation tonight. But the love that they have for the mother, the love that they show her, I think is because we were able to recognize this is just people aren't perfect. Can't expect mom to be, so we just have to give her a little bit more. And she's doing well now, so let's embrace while we can. Let's do it. And one of the most beautiful things is that I'm older by more than a decade, is telling her that, the first half of your life wasn't that great, but the other half can be amazing. But we have to kind of do it together. We're with you. That was the moment that I felt that I had done a decent job as a father. And during the 15 years that we were no longer a couple, there was never a time that my door was closed, that they heard something negative out of my mouth about it. And they never, ever heard anything except of how great a mother she was before she had an incident that she couldn't recover from in time enough for us to see it. And again, this is the imperfection of man. It's not, you get perfect and you get wings. We never get to experience us in our perfect form, so that's the way it is. And so I'm really proud. And if I have to give a shout out to my kids, all of them, my baby boy is in his 3rd year at Ithaca College, studying musical theater. He'll be doing study abroad in London next year.
Wow.
His twin, my baby girl, she's the assistant manager at Christopher and Banks. His brother is Anthony Cannon, who was just voted the best MC in Ithaca in the local Best of Ithaca series, but he's actually doing much better than Ithaca.
Wow.
His sister is doing real estate in Ohio right now. It is amazing, and when you meet them, you see these amazing kids who've had all of this stuff showered on them and put on them, and people talking about them and making things up. And you see them, and they are the most together, the hardest working, the most focused, and they are relentless in their pursuits of being happy. And again, that is one of the best things you can experience as a parent, is your kids pursuing happiness as opposed to some other goal.
Nice.
May they find it. That is all.
All right.
So that's the positivity that I tried to put in those last few words that we had that night.
Yeah.
This is what it's about, and I don't mean to take sides or do anything. I just wanted to say that we're people out here, and what I've done, what you've done, what anybody's done, good. Let's make it better. Let's come together. Let's be people. Let's all be people. And let's all be people working towards the interest of people. And the rest of the world will kind of fall in place, if we're trying to be people and do what's best for us as a people. What's the downside?
Whoa, we should do a regular show on this. Do a thing. I could produce it and do the camera work or something, and you just interview somebody each week or something.
Oh, no, you're not getting me to commit to that.
I tried to drag him in. But this has been good enough. It will be good. But then maybe you'll come on again.
Oh, absolutely. I appreciate the offer.
I'll get a musical set up and maybe we can do some music.
Yeah, and there's nothing I love more. Music's a whole nother thing. But yeah.
Oh yeah, before I forget, let me tap into your knowledge there that I've been trying to start a band, and the reason I'm doing this cable access is because I want to do vocal work and do acting, and was having a lot of difficulties with starting a band.
It's the hardest thing to do. That's why I've been a sideman all my life with no responsibility. Now I'm trying to do it for my son. It's hard. So hard to do. But I don't judge me.
Yes, no, I want your input on, well, the cable access thing is years ago, I heard them talking about the gentleman, Michael Angley, that used to do a show here. He expressed political opinions, and eventually did a Ghost Whisperers type show, and I think he's making money off it on YouTube. But anyway, came to town, or I shouldn't even get off on the ASCII thing, I'll do the band thing. Since I mentioned that, I should say it. So I came to town, volunteered at the State Theater. Turns out they don't even produce plays there. Went to the Hangar Theater to volunteer. No, you got to pay to volunteer there, probably just for the uniform or something. But the Kitchen Theater, it started somebody's kitchen, local stuff. I'll be able to bust in there. So I moved theater seats, worked through my back pain. I've got a spinal injury. Moved theater seats in their own location, did ushering. Volunteer mailings and all that, thinking, okay, now we audition for between two equal actors. Okay, this is the guy that helps us out, he gets the part. Oh no, we only hire professional actors from New York. And then a whole bunch of roadblocks that I wanted to ask you about with starting a band. So I was having all these horrible artistic frustrations with vocal work and acting, so then I heard these people talking. Oh no, we hate this guy, you can't believe what he's saying, blah, blah, blah. And they were going on and on for like a half an hour about how much they hated this guy. So they must have loved him because they're consuming their whole lives and how much they hated him. So I was like, what are you guys talking about? Because they were going, oh, this guy that's on cable access. So I'm like, what? We have cable access here in Ithaca? Because usually like bigger cities, Syracuse, Rochester, Binghamton, whatever, they would have cable access, but a little town like this normally doesn't have it. So it's like, okay, good, there's an outlet for me to do. So I'm babbling about that, but now to get more to the question is, so I would have trouble, because it's like high energy rock that I want to do, so it's usually like, when I have worked with a band or tried to organize, the one problem is usually it turns into a big party. You get through a couple songs and then everybody gets so wasted. Party afterwards, let's get serious here. Or people are into, aren't really serious about, okay, let's make this a success. They're, okay, yeah, this is just kind of a hobby. That's another roadblock. And then the final roadblock is when I work with the guitar, I'm the vocalist, so I work with the guitarist. Even if they swear on a stack of Bibles, no, I don't have any desire to do vocal work. Eventually they've tried to, they're stepping on my toes and they want to do vocal stuff, and I'm the vocalist. It's cool to harmonize, but anyway, enough of me babbling about all the roadblocks, but you've had some successful stuff with working with bands and music stuff.
Well, I
Yeah, any
started,
kind of insights?
I started as a drummer when I was 4. My parents put me in drum lessons. That was before I started kindergarten. So I don't remember ever not being involved in music. It was never a secondary thing for me. It was always something that I wanted. It was a very different era in Ithaca, and Ithaca was one of the most thriving music environments anyone could wish for when I was a child. By 8 or 9, I probably had my first guitar lesson and eventually went to bass. I've been doing that now more than 50 years. I played with, I thought I turned that on. I played with, actually at the last gig that Bernie Milton played, I played with him. He passed. He had his last heart attack that next day. It was a Thursday night. He had his heart attack that Friday before his radio show. And a lot of the guys that are popular now, I knew when they were in their teens and stuff. I was usually 20 years older than everybody else. I've just been very fortunate to have been in the right place at the right time. And there are so many great musicians in Ithaca, and I think one of the hardest things to deal with is that the really good guys are really busy. It's really hard to work in Ithaca because there aren't that many music venues. When I was young, there were music venues in the teens, and there were great musicians in the dozens. And I don't mean great musicians just, oh, he's a great player. I'm talking about people that have made real changes in music. The David Bordens, the Julian Eastmans, the Jerry Eastmans, the Burns sisters, the Averys, the Smothers Brothers, and I'm Sherman Kelly, and all these people that have had Charlie Shue. That list is like this long. You got the Bobby Comstocks and Ronnie Dio down the street, and so you've got. I mean, the list is like this long. It was a great time to be a little kid in Ithaca wanting to play music. That's one thing. Now, I think there are as many great musicians coming out of the schools and coming out of the college, and there's just not the. I don't think, like I said, the venues aren't there. It's an ever-evolving scene.
The what? I missed that.
The scene is evolving always. It's hard to second guess. Even now, I can pretty much look at the situation and say, oh, I see how this is going. But that's because it's kind of cyclical, you know, things go in circles. And so I know reggae is going to come back and be real popular real soon, and then there's something else is going to be, and then another big horn band is going to come along. You know, right now they seem to be embracing hip hop really well in Ithaca, which had been kind of blacklisted for a while, and some for good reason. It's not an easy thing to do, to get 5 talented guys in a room that are creative and get them to, one, work together, to drop the egos off and say, this is not about me, but about the music. And I think the serious musicians aren't doing it for a hobby. They're doing it because they have to. person asked me many years ago, what's the difference between a guy that plays an instrument and a musician? And my answer is still my favorite answer, and that was the guy that plays an instrument and has a choice. You know, and he pulls it out and he plays Christmas carols at Christmas and at the campfire, and the guy that's a musician makes bad decisions to continue to play music. You know, and that's typically the way that it ends up, you know, unless there's some intervening by the universe in which it says, we're going to reward you for all the stupid decisions you've made to continue to play, you know, and
all right, I like that.
yeah, basically I do it because I don't have any choice, you know. It's the one thing that I still do that is basically for me, and it is my happy place. And I'm going to plug Neo Project, best group of musicians that I've had a chance to play with in a very long time. All professionals, all very serious about what they do. And to get that level of musicianship in a room, it probably took us 3 years of talking about it before we ever had a rehearsal. And we've been together now probably 6 or 7 years.
Wow.
You know, and we met in another band that, you know. So it's not an easy thing, but when you find the right combination and when it is supposed to be, and I'm a really big supporter of when it's supposed to be, it will. That I think I was kept out of some situations because I just shouldn't be there. And I think I've looked up into some situations that had no idea how great that situation was going to be in the long run. You know, so I ended up being in the right place after hearing a bunch of no's. You keep on playing, and you hope that maybe this time is it, and you'll find out sooner or later that it was a good idea or a bad idea, a good bunch of guys or a bad bunch of guys. And sometimes there'll be a mixture. There's a bad bunch of guys and a good bunch of guys, and that might last for a while as long as you don't have to stay in too close quarters for too long.
Nice. I like that perspective. It correlates with one of my favorite actors is Kirk Douglas.
Oh, well,
You probably are.
I'm an old movie enthusiast. You know, film noir is my era. You know, Kirk is still here. Amazing.
Kirk Douglas, not Michael Douglas.
Yeah,
his son.
Kirk is still here.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
He hasn't. Last time he was like 103.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, but I hope he hasn't passed and I missed it because I don't do much, but it's still going to be a holiday. It's going to be a holiday for doing nothing. You know, it's going to be a sad day for me. You know.
But his idea was, back in the day, he was an English major in college, and then he started doing the theater in college, and he was really good at it, and got a lot of accolades and popularity, and he thought, well, maybe this is what I want, and he decided this is definitely what I want to do. So then when it came time to really pursue movie roles and really stand in the soup kitchen lines and when you starving artist type of thing, his friends and loved ones said he had like 2 courses to do to finish his degree in teaching. And they said, finish that up so you'll have something to fall back on. That's when he knew he was going to not finish it, because if he had something to fall back on, he would fall back. So then when it came to stress of having a bad director or having trouble getting parts and all that, he just went through and he knew that that's what he wanted to do, and he became one of the greatest actors of our time.
That is one of the best, I think, pieces of advice. And parents everywhere are really not going to be happy that I'm going to say this, but one of my friends from this golden age of Ithaca, he had played with Hendrix, he had done all this work, and he was one of the first that had he received a gold record and come back to Ithaca, and his roots were around here. And eventually got strung out on heroin during the 70s, and life took drastically turned downwards. I'd known him since I was a child, being around all these grown musicians. One day we were speaking, and he was talking about the fact that nobody would hire him anymore. And he said to me that when no one mentioned that he was winning talent contests at 4 years old, and that he had done this at 10, and by 18 he was doing this, and when he got his gold record, nobody mentions any of that anymore. They mention the last time he got in trouble, the last time this happened. So now no one would hire him to be a musician. And that when he was a musician, you went to get a job playing music. That's all he knew how to do. He didn't know how to do anything else. And I found that when you have something to fall back on, that ends up being your primary pursuit, that fall back on turns into the time you should be perfecting your craft as a musician. But you're spending your 8 hours a day studying for that degree that you're going to get. And then you've got to spend the next 20 years paying for that degree that you got. And you're not going to get that playing guitar down at the coffee shop. That's pretty much a no. So I do believe that if that's what you're pursuing, you need to pursue it with everything you got. Pursue it like you're pursuing college. Put the work into being a musician like you put the work into going to school. And there has to be some rewards, or go to school for music. You know, and I think having a musical education is also, unless you're extremely gifted and that's not something you need, that's a really smart way to go from A to B as opposed to going A to K and then back to B. But I definitely think that having something to fall back interferes with the organic nature of going after what you're going for. I would never say to my son, oh, you want to get into hip-hop, maybe you should study veterinary school. It just doesn't even sound right coming from my mouth. I think the proudest thing I am is that I have one son that wants to be an actor. I have another son that's trying to be a rapper. That would be a disaster in most families. In my family, what that says is that they looked at their dad and they thought that they could do anything, and that they're willing to go out there and try their hardest to do it. If they go out there and if they are not successful in the way that they saw it, that's okay. But if they're successful at being able to do what they love, then they have managed to find the thing that made them happy, and they'll be happy with what they get from it. That, again, leads me back to the beginning, is them being happy and pursuing something that is not part of their happiness plan is not something that I'm endorsing. That's like saying, I need you to do these things that I didn't do, that would have made me happy if I had done them. I need you to do the things that you want to do to make you happy. That way you can't say, Dad, it's your fault. I'm not happy because you made me do this. I much prefer, you know, get mad at me because I let you do what you wanted to do. You know, I'll take that one, you know. But thus far, I also think that they know that I work very hard. And they're working hard to do what they love to do. There's nothing that I could ask of them more than that. And I think that's what all parents ask, is that you do the best at whatever you do. Do your best at it. And I don't think that comes with a box to check. Do your best as long as it's not music. Do your best as long as it's not acting. Do your best as long as it's not being an artist. Do your best at whatever you want to do. And if you do that, you can't blame anybody. You're giving it your best shot. Now you got time to do something else. You got plenty of time to learn a trade. that you could be unhappy with the rest of your life. But don't start at not pursuing happiness. Don't start there. End up at doing the job you didn't want to do. Don't start at doing the job you didn't want to do. Start at making your dreams come true. And if they come true, know it's because you worked hard.
All right.
That's all.
Excellent advice.
I hope so, because I've said that to a lot of kids that is kind of banking on it, you know. But I do believe it, and I think they believe it. Yeah.
But even for a middle-aged guy that's just starting out, that's good advice.
I
feel
think
like
everybody.
you're becoming like a older, I was going to say father figure, but older brother figure to me that with just our interaction here. I mean, it started on Facebook a little bit, but now I'm getting the whole vibe.
I hope everybody, you know, again, it's people and people being happy. And I think people know when people are happy, or if they're happy to see you know. And I think many times that, we end up unhappy. And, you know, life gives us, you know, some really strange obstacles. Things to deal with just as a person, you know. And sometimes you say, God isn't fair, and it's never, ever going to be fair. You know, I can remember, you know, telling the kids, you know, I think one of the first things that when they were able to comprehend English and abstract thought, which was probably earlier than most kids because it was just us, I'll never give you a bag of potato chips and expect you each to get 7. Somebody's going to get 5. Somebody's going to get 4 and a couple of crumbs. One of you might get 7. But I'm not going in the bag to go, here's one for you, here's one for you, here's one for you, and do that over and over again until the bag is empty. I don't have that much time. But if I give you the bag, you guys are going to fight. So this is what we're going to do. I'm going to give you this bag, and now you're going to learn how to share. And that's how that goes. I can't make life fair for you, but I can make you understand that it's not fair.
Nice. So you probably got some stuff to do. I called him in at the last minute when, well, like I said, Lauren was still on vacation. It's like, well, we still have Rain in the studio.
Well,
she's good, but she could a little more stringent.
My time is pretty flexible.
All right, well, let's keep going.
I'm not very easy to split it into.
What should we talk about next? It's what?
Got a few more minutes?
Yeah, just whenever you feel ready to end it, we'll sum up.
Well, what would the summary be? I've talked about my children. Talked enough about me. Music is there. I don't know what's left to cover.
So,